It's been 6 months since the release of OrcaSlicer 2.3.1, the last official release until now. A few weeks ago, OrcaSlicer 2.3.2 officially launched, and it brings an absolutely ridiculous amount of new features, updates, and quality of life improvements. I'm not joking when I say this is one of, if not the biggest update I've seen since I started covering the Orca releases. Normally I try to go over as much as possible, but with how much is packed into this release, I decided to narrow it down to my top 10 favorites. In this video, we'll dive into OrcaSlicer 2.3.2 and take a look at the changes and additions I'm most excited about. So with all that being said and without further ado, let's get right into today's video. First up is smoother surface finish at seam transitions. This change applies external perimeter acceleration to the short travel move right before the outer wall. This translates to less vibrations right at the seams, leading to cleaner results. You'll notice this most on cylindrical parts where the seams are more visible, but really this should benefit just about any print. Unlike scarf seams that have to be applied in the slicer, this is enabled by default and doesn't add any additional print time. I did a few test prints comparing this on 2.3.1 and 2.3.2 and didn't notice much of a difference on the machine I was using. However, I anticipate on a larger, less rigid machine, the differences will be more substantial. Next up is bridging. Previously, external bridge density was capped at 100%. That has since been upped to 120%. This value determines the number of lines generated for the external bridge layer. Having more lines here means more contact between them. I tested this on a small cylindrical bridge model that I designed, and by raising just this value, the line count went from 86 lines all the way up to 102. Pair that with a slightly lower flow ratio and some speed tuning, and you can get some really clean bridges. From the starting point and using just the default settings to adjusting the density, flow, and speed, I was able to eliminate the gaps between the lines pretty easily with just a bit of tweaking.
Today's video is brought to you by MicroSwiss. Based in the US, MicroSwiss manufactures high-quality 3D printer upgrades, including extruders, hot ends, and nozzles for over 150 different models. I've been running their hardware in my machines for over 6 years, and have always been impressed by their meticulous attention to detail. Their newest line of drop-in hot ends called FlowTech features high flow, and its leak-proof design allows for cold nozzle swapping. FlowTech is constantly expanding, and they recently added a version for the Bambu Lab X1 and P1 series of printers. From plated brass and hardened steel CM2 to CHT and Diamondback, they have nozzles available for any application. Links are in the description to find out more about the various upgrades they offer or to pick up your own.
Multi-line infill paths have been completely reworked so they no longer cross over each other or intersect with each other on the same layer. Previously, those intersections could cause nozzle dragging and affect overall part quality. Now everything is continuous and much cleaner. This was made possible by integrating a new library called Clipper 2, which handles intersecting geometry much more efficiently. The max value for fill multiline was also doubled and is now capped at 10. Multiline infill is now properly anchored to the perimeter, while before in some cases it was just sort of loosely connected or floating altogether. While I still don't recommend using something like lightning infill for demanding application, this update does improve the part's overall strength. Next is something I am really excited about, and that is expanded control over flow rate. Flow ratio has always been adjusted on a filament level, and while that's still true in 2.3.2, the level of control you have now is much more granular. OrcaSlicers had the ability to adjust flow rate for certain features for quite some time now, but this takes it to a whole nother level. From the Quality tab under the Walls and Surface section, click the checkbox labeled Set Other Flow Ratios to enable this feature. Doing so gives you the ability to set the flow rate for first layer, outer and inner walls, overhangs, infill, gaps, and supports. This opens up a lot of possibilities. Whether you want stronger infill, cleaner walls, or more stable support structure, you now have the ability to really dial these in. I don't use brims all that often, but when I do, it's on a large or difficult part, and I'm really counting on that brim to ensure that everything is properly adhered to my build plate. Brims historically are generated based on the first layer of the model or models you've imported for printing. For the most part, this works well without any issues. However, if you are using something like elephant foot compensation, this can lead to some problems. Elephant foot compensation works by shrinking the first layer on the build plate to counter or remove any bulging and is often used for parts that need to be dimensionally accurate. The issue is that by shrinking the first layer, the brim is no longer as connected to your part as it should be, since it's generated based on the model you imported and not the compensated model. Now there is an option to generate your brim based off of the compensated model instead. There is now an option to have OrcaSlicer auto slice after you change a setting. As someone who's constantly playing around with settings, slicing the model, going back to make some tweaks and slicing again, this is a welcome addition. To enable it, open Settings and click on the Control tab. Then enable auto slice after changes. There's also an option to set a delay on slicing after a setting has been changed. For now, I just have it set to the default of 1 second, but I'll have to see over time and using it if I like that or if I want to expand on it, especially when I'm working with more large and complex models. With this enabled, if you change a setting and it starts slicing the model, and during that you change another setting, it will cancel that initial slice and re-slice with your latest changes. We now have the option to create instances instead of cloning objects. The main difference between these two is that with clones, they are completely independent models, while with instances, they are all referencing each other. Any adjustments made to a clone will have no impact on the other clones, but on an instance, any changes you make to an instance is applied across all of the other instances. This makes updating a full plate of parts much easier than having to reproduce clones after any model changes. Also, since they are using the same model data, they slice much faster than clones. Right-click on any model and select Add Instance to create an additional instance of the model. You can also select Set Number of Instances to define the total number you want created, or fill your plate with the maximum number of instances possible. This one has been being worked on as far back as July of 2024, so it's really nice to see it get an official release. Whether you're using a single toolhead filament swapper or a tool changer, when printing with multiple colors or materials, a prime tower is needed to ensure consistent extrusion. For multicolor prints, adhesion and overall stability is normally not an issue. However, when printing with dissimilar materials, such as a PETG and PLA or TPU and PLA, to have easily removable supports, the overall stability of the prime tower is significantly reduced, especially for tall prints. Wipe tower changes from Bambu Studio 2.5 have been imported to OrcaSlicer 2.3.2 for use with all printers. This includes a temperature boost for the prime tower's interface layers, pre-extrusion before printing the interface layer, removing ironing from that layer, reducing infill speed after the interface layer, and more. In addition to this port, some of the logic surrounding temperature boost and cooldown has been improved to ensure maximum reliability and reduce additional print time. To enable these new prime tower settings, you need to select Enable Tower Interface Features and optionally cool down from interface boost during prime tower. One of my favorite things about OrcaSlicer is all of the built-in calibration tools. It's something I find incredibly valuable, and it's why I've dedicated a handful of videos and put together a full playlist covering how each of these tools work. With 2.3.2, there are some big changes to these tools. I often get asked what is the best order to run those calibration tools in. The order was close before, but it has since been updated where now all you do is follow it from top to bottom, so there's no more second guessing it, and I think that that will help to hopefully clarify a lot of the confusion I was seeing. Some of the other improvements include better firmware detection for input shaping, expanded calibration support for Clipper, Marlin, and RepRap firmware, improved retraction testing giving you more visibility into artifacts, and an increase to a cap of 500 Celsius for temperature tower testing. Another thing I'm really excited about is the implementation of the new modular printer agent system with support for third-party AMS type units. For machines like the Snapmaker U1 as well as Cheaty's latest printers with their Cheaty box, I have mostly stuck to just using the manufacturer's versions of these slicers. This is largely because I find that the way those slicers have been set up to interact with the machine as well as the multi-spool unit just overall is a smoother experience. With this release, you can now select between Bambu Lab, Orca, Moonraker, Cheaty, and Snapmaker from the printer agent dropdown of the physical printer menu. While it's currently marked as experimental, this gives you the ability to sync filaments from these printers directly in OrcaSlicer, which gives a much better experience and just overall general workflow. So far, I've been using it with the Cheaty Max 4, and I plan on testing it out also with the Snapmaker U1, and I'd love to also try it out with the Box Turtle. I had a really hard time picking just 10 things to go over, so here are 2 more bonus items. For Bambu Lab users, this latest version of OrcaSlicer brings support for the H2D, H2D Pro, and H2S printers. There are some caveats such as requiring LAN mode and dev mode being enabled, but other than occasionally checking in on the app, this does everything I need it to. For Bambu Lab users, there are quite a few other upgrades in this release, so I strongly recommend checking out the full changelog section labeled as Bambu Lab. The G-code preview window had a pretty big overhaul. Thanks to a port from OrcaSlicer, the overall rendering quality is significantly improved, and we also got 2 new views, allowing you to see the actual speed and volumetric flow rate based on your defined settings versus theoretical values. The G-code marker was also updated, so instead of it just showing the position of the toolhead, it now shows speed along with the feature being printed. The clickable pop-up gives you way more details, allowing you to really tune a print, confirm settings, and troubleshoot print issues. As always, I am just blown away by OrcaSlicer and what this project has been able to accomplish. Thanks to the hard work of Soft Fever, other open source slicers, and up to almost 100 contributors, we have access to an incredibly powerful piece of slicing software that just keeps getting better. With how large this 2.3.2 update is, I highly encourage anybody to check out the link in the description that will take you over to the release page, and you'll want to scrub all the way back from the first beta release to the official release of 2.3.2 so you can see just everything that was added in this version. And if there is a specific feature that you would like covered in a different video that I didn't touch on in this video, let me know in the comments as well. And that has been OrcaSlicer 2.3.2. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that there are some new things you are excited to go run off and play around with. On that note, don't forget to like and subscribe for more great videos. We make a video just about every other week, so there's always fresh content coming your way. And if you want to support the channel further, I'll have links in the description over to our Patreon, where there are some really awesome rewards. Huge thank you to all of our existing Patreon supporters. I appreciate each and every one of you for allowing me to come back every single week and spend more time doing what I love, which is making content for you all to enjoy. On that note, this has been Daniel from ModBot. I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. Peace, guys.